Today, I wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about what I expect the solo experience to look like inside of the deep desert of Dune Awakening. This right here is one single tile of the entire deep desert. And in the last dev stream, they actually said there are 81 of these tiles in total. So with that bit of information, we've actually been able to put together a bit of a mock deep desert map here. Thankfully, they actually gave us 3 versions of this same tile. So instead of the map here being one single tile copy and pasted 81 times, it's instead 3 tiles copy and pasted 27 times. And as you can see here, this deep desert is absolutely massive. The sheer size of the deep desert is just one example of what we learn inside of this dev stream that really benefits solo players. For another example here, we get a glimpse at what the render distance or the draw distance is going to look like when it comes to spotting other ornithopters flying in the air. And as you can see here, it's actually pretty short. This is going to make it to where you can or should be able to pretty easily avoid being camped by the safe zone, people camping you. You should be able to find a spot where you can slide into the deep desert and then slide out of the deep desert without being spotted. But on top of that, it's also going to make it to where guilds and big zergs are really going to have to stay pretty close to each other, at least in order to keep a physical eye on each other. This could easily lead to a situation where one single person from a guild gets separated and then it turns a guild versus you battle into a 1 versus 1 battle. The draw distance here being not too far should definitely help you also get out of sight of certain situations. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But now that we have this mock version of the deep desert drawn up, I do kind of want to talk about what my game plans are for the deep desert and how I anticipate this whole thing playing out. To start off, we know that 10% of the deep desert is going to be a safe zone. This isn't quite one full tile, but it is close. For the sake of the video, I'm going to draw this line right at the halfway point, but in reality, the safe zone is a little bit further up than that. However, everywhere inside of this area right here is all going to be safe zone. And this is definitely where we're going to be setting up a forward operating base. A nice small location that's building up some water for us, has some storage, a place where we can park and then launch our ornithopter from. And honestly, I was not even considering building inside of the deep desert. But now that we're looking at the size of this map here, I think that it's actually going to be feasible even for a solo player to set up a small spot inside of the deep desert. If you hide it from view just good enough, you might be able to survive a week without a guild coming and raiding your place. And there are actually some advantages and reasons as to why you would want to build in the deep desert. I'll get to that in a little bit, but let's talk about what we got going on here, because first things first, we're going to be setting up a forward operating base. And when we come into the deep desert, I'm not going to want to set up my base somewhere like right here in the middle at the 5 mark, for example. This is going to be interesting because I don't know where you enter the deep desert at. Is it random? Do you enter at 5 every single time, you know, smack dab in the middle of the safe zone of the deep desert? Or is it possible that you spawn on the 9 tile inside of the safe zone? I just don't know at this point in time. But in reality, the area in which I'm probably going to be setting up most of my forward operating bases is right in the 7-8 zone or the 1-2 zone. Regardless of where we set this forward operating base up, the plan really is the same. When we're first starting out in the deep desert, we're just going to be riding along this shield wall here, trying to find any opportunities we can to sneak our way into the deep desert. Maybe drop a probe so we can scan the area real quick, come back. Maybe hit up a dungeon real quick, come back. Just real quick trips in and out of the deep desert, depositing all of that back at the forward operating base. Because this deep desert is so massive though, limiting yourself to runs from the safe zone and back is really going to limit the amount of tiles that you can hit up. Realistically, if you're going from the safe zone and back to the safe zone, you're only going to want to hit up these, tiles here, which, don't get me wrong, is still a massive area and probably more stuff than you could even handle realistically. However, you're not going to want to go from the safe zone all the way up to this back corner of the deep desert and then back into the safe zone, right? That just doesn't make sense. It's going to be a big waste of fuel. It's going to be leading to more opportunities for you to run into people out in the deep desert. So realistically, what you're going to want to do here is set up an extra base that is located inside of the deep desert. Like I said in the beginning, I was not even planning on doing this. However, now I kind of think that it's the way to go. It's probably the best strategy to have. And I think that even as a solo, we're going to be able to set up one of these bases in a bit of a hidden spot, small enough to where we can store our stuff in, maybe seek shelter from a storm, but not big enough to be seen or like spotted very easily. Instead of dividing the map up into 81 separate tiles, we can also kind of separate this thing in bigger groups here. And I'm thinking the locations that I'm going to be looking to set up a base the most inside of the deep desert are spots like right here or right here, really far into the deep desert. So I have access to all of this that I can loop around and hit, or all of this that I can loop around and hit. But I also gain access to any of this that I possibly want to hit, or down here if I want to hit that. Setting up in one of these back corners really does kind of give you access to several of these bigger squares. I don't think it's going to matter very much because each one of these tiles individually is what you're really looking for. Each one of these is going to be set up with different stuff inside of it. So separating them into the bigger tiles really doesn't make that much of a difference. However, I think the point stands that spots like this and this right here really give you access to the most area. Even spots like in these corners might be places that I'm looking to hit as well. However, with these being so close to the safe zone, you're probably going to have a lot more foot traffic, which means that your supposed to be hidden base has more opportunities for it to be found. Whereas if it's way down here, somebody from the safe zone exploring is going to have to go all the way out there and happen to stumble upon your base. In reality, these bases that I put out in the deep desert as well, I'm not even planning on them being big enough to house an ornithopter, right? We're going to be looking to hopefully set up near certain bits of terrain that we can possibly tuck an ornithopter into while we then run to our little tucked in base. Hopefully everything's really got to line up perfectly for it to be hidden in such a way that we could hide our ornithopter as well as ourselves. But these bases are just meant to be a place where I can go very quickly to escape a storm, where I can go and deposit some loot in case I'm worried about, getting jumped on. It's maybe even a place that I can go and run to should I be getting attacked actively from other people, because if base rating is down and I can manage to get into my base, I should be safe once I'm in there. A situation like that, of course, would lead to the base's location being entirely exposed and the whole hidden aspect that I'm going for kind of being thrown out the window. But at the end of the day, we are playing around and messing around inside of the deep desert, so anything goes. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, both when it comes to the size of the deep desert and to what sort of plans that you guys have lined up for this place. We're going to be going live right here on YouTube as well as Twitch for the early access launch of Dune Awakening. I'll have a link to the Twitch down in the description. Be sure to stop by on day one and see how the plan is going. If you made it this far in the video, comment "made it" down below so I can give you an extra shout out. Do me a favor, hit that like button on your way out. It helps these videos get pushed into the algorithm a ton. But other than that, I hope you guys all have an amazing day. I'm out.